This is Mr. Creighton, and I'm going to go over basically the steps for you to follow in order to do the digital alteration portion of your project. So right away, remember the first step was to open your project in Photoshop. So you should have download the image from the OneDrive. So you had an image that had your name on it for our product design project, so our product and brand design. So in order to open that, you just click File, and then Open, and you should be able to search your computer to find that image, because assuming you did save it to the desktop. So already I have my image open in here. So once your image is open in Photoshop, we're going to go to the portion where we need to actually make our adjustments. And one of the number one adjustments we'll make is the idea of contrast and the brightness. So you look at this image. Currently, this image is kind of dull in color. There's also a bunch of marks, so now we want to kind of get this fleshed out and finalized. If you look at a finished version here, so clearly this version looks a lot brighter. The background looks a lot cleaner, and also we have grays. So we have light, medium, and dark through this entire drawing. So you look at this one, looks a lot more dull, a lot more darker. So right away, guys, our first step in order to increase the contrast and adjust the brightness is to go to image. So if you look at our little tab here, so third from the left is image, and we're going to scan down to adjustments. So if you look at the adjustments options right below mode, we highlight adjustments, and then we're going to go over to our second column. So we're going to scan over to our second column to brightness and contrast. So if you look to my right, there's a brightness and contrast tab. So now you have the ability to make adjustments to your actual artwork. So we are going to adjust the brightness. So already that makes a big difference. So if you look here, this preview button allows you to see what it looks like now, and then that's what it looked like before. So I'm going to click this back again so you can see what it appears to be now. So already this brightness I'm a little more comfortable with. It's a little bit more solid. So I can also adjust the contrast. So I can make it a little bit too bold. That's way too much contrast. We're losing all of our grays. So if I show you what it looked like originally, we have no grays now. So let's actually take that contrast down. What we want is a balance. So you want to be able to see some light, medium, and dark. So let's see the original again. Again, we want light, medium, and dark. Just like any other drawing, highlight, midtone, and shadow. We want high contrast, aka a range. If you're comfortable with this where you feel that you have light, medium, and dark, you can click OK. So once you're comfortable, click OK. So we now have a better version of our brightness and contrast adjusted. The next thing we're going to adjust is the shadows and highlights. So we still want grays. If you look at this option, we do not have a lot of grays here. We really only have light and dark, aka highlights and shadows. So in order to make adjustments, we're going to go back to the same tab. So if you look at image, which is third from the left, we're going to click image. So that tab, go to adjustments, which is that second option in our first row. And if you go to the row on the right side, we're going to scan, we just did brightness and contrast, but we're going to scan all the way to the bottom, which is shadows and highlights. So now what this will allow for you to do is this is pretty much all highlighted. We got a lot of white and some black. We can take this down and actually add more grays. So now this seems a little more fleshed out. So if I click preview, because now this is what it is. If I click preview, you can see what it was. So already, I actually feel like the original version looked better. So I'm going to click preview again. So it looks like I have a little bit too much gray here. And I can also adjust the shadows. So I can pull those shadows out. So now it's too light. I'm going to bring it back. Again, I think what was close to our original option was better. So we can pull out the shadows. We can pull out the highlights. But then we almost had too much gray. So that was the original. Here's the adjustment I made. Original, adjustment. Original, adjustment. So I'm going to go with the adjustment version. So here's the deal, class. So we want to make sure this is as finished and polished as possible. So we're going to adjust the background here. So what I mean by that is if you look at the background, there's a ton of smudges and a ton of marks. So what we're going to do now is we have our focal point, for the most part, what we want, but the background is incomplete. So like I was telling students, you could erase it. So if I select my erase tool, so it's the one that looks like a rectangle and half is filled in, half is not. The nice thing that anytime you click on a tool, what it is pops up just so you can see what it does and what it's called. The sizes are here top left. So you can see that number 464, it's a pretty big eraser. But if I erase this, that's a really white, it's a pure white. So we don't want that. It's too bright. So I can kind of fix this. I'm going to select our edit and step backwards. The easiest way to make sure the background stays the same and we get rid of the smudges is to use the eyedropper tool. So if you look here in my toolbar, there's the eyedropper tool. Right now it's highlighted. It literally looks like an eyedropper. So I'm going to click this and select the color of my background. Now, when I fill the background in, it'll be the exact same color because the eyedropper selects the color that you choose. So if I were to eyedrop on the eye, it's dark. If I use the eyedropper in the background, it's light. So I'm going to take my brush and color this in. So the brush tool paints a brush stroke. Right now, this is super small. So I want to enlarge this thing. So I'm going to go to the size. I'm going to increase the size. Let's probably go about 300 or so because that's a big enough brush for me to cover areas. And now I can edit this thing. Look at that. That's so much cleaner, so much better. I'm getting rid of all the smudges. So now here, this is really the blessing of being able to edit things digitally. It makes a big difference. Look how clean that is compared to what it was in the beginning. Now we have a pretty legit eye. We don't have any of those smudges or marks that we just had, and we are pretty much good to go. So once you feel that you've cleaned up the background, everything is smooth and consistent, and we can move on to adding text. Because our objectives are to create a balanced illustration that has room for text and image. So you should have left a gap for text, and we have a very strong focal point here. We also want to create an image that represents the brand or image clearly, and we do have the image that does that. And then again, we want to make sure that we can add digital text to finish this thing off because part of illustration is communication. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a layer for my text. So if you go to layers on the bottom right, so look here where it says layers. In order to add a layer, there's a really small icon on the far bottom right next to this little trash bin. We don't want trash, we want a layer. So where it says create new layer right down here, I'm going to click this. Okay, so now we have a layer that we can work on top of. So in order to add text, if you click RT, so the horizontal type tool, and that's going to allow for us to add any text. If you look here too, what's going to happen is there's a box of options that pop up here. So not only you have different fonts you can choose from that can fit your focal point and brand, we have styles. So if you want to be regular, italic, bold, or bold italic, but also the sizes. So you have sizes you can create. So let's say if I want to go with 72 and type. So my brand name, let's go with Luscious. Oh, nope. I gotta make sure this is dark enough that you can see it. Let's go with like Luscious. Luscious Eyes. Or Luscious Lashes. That's gonna be my brand name. Luscious Lashes. So this is super small. I can pull it around. So I can use the move tool to literally push and pull this text wherever I want. But this is not balanced. Look at all of this negative space that surrounds this eyeball. So what I want to do now is I'm going to highlight this thing and I can adjust the size. Let's go with a 200. Bam. let's make this a little bit bigger. Let's go with a 300. Bam, there we go. That's balance. So remember, balance means we're using most of the space, majority of the space. But in my opinion, this font sucks. This does not fit the idea of what I think Luscious Lashes would be. So let's just say this is like a brand of mascara or something to help elongate eyelashes or make your face look better. So to beautify this thing, this font is terrible. So let's try another one. So I want you guys to kind of play around with fonts. So Rockwell, you suck. Let's find something that maybe fits the idea or focal point of this better. Let's go with, because I want you guys to try some different fonts. I'd like for you to try 3 different fonts to see what's going to look best. Let's go with Bradley. Luscious. Ooh, too skinny. We don't want any of that. Let's go with something that seems fancy. Let's try Monotype. So let's see if this fits. And this is a little bit closer as to what I would like for the idea of a brand that fits the illustration. So we have a font choice that fits it better. This is a lot stronger. And again, you can increase the size. So if I'd like to, so let's say I want this to balance out my space a little bit stronger, I can select this thing and also increase the size. So let's maybe drop or blow this thing up to 350. Bam, there we go. So already this is a stronger font, but again, I would like for you to try 3 different fonts. So let's go with one more option. Then let's maybe find something that's a little bit more curvy. So now let's try this. Ooh, this is a better option than the first one, but this also is a little bit hard to read. And part of our illustration is we want clarity, so we're still trying to focus on strong focal points, balance, and communication, because that's what's going to bring your illustration together. So you look at these 3 font choices for Luscious Lashes, and I feel that this middle choice is our best option. So remember, students, you want 3 different options of your fonts in which to choose from, so you can find what fits your focal point and the idea of your brand or product the strongest. So I'm going to take this one out. Don't want that. We're going to go with option number 2. So we still want balance. So part of your objective was, again, to use text and a focal point to create a finished illustration, but you also must include a tagline in regards to your text. So typically a tagline is going to be built with a smaller font size, and traditionally that font is a little bit more simplistic because that doesn't need to be as detailed or as much of a strong element as the title itself or the brand name. So I'm going to go with maybe a slightly different font here. So let's find something a little more simplistic for our tagline. And let's decrease the size just as if you were making a movie poster project in 2D art or intro to drawing. We're going to go with something a little bit more simplistic. Let's try Century Gothic. And then maybe for a tagline, we'll go with lashes, the way they were meant to be. That helps explain the idea of our brand, and that's the purpose of a tagline. So this phrase that fits it. If you look at this image, so this image is balanced, meaning we're using the majority of the space. We have a strong focal point, which is going to attract your attention, and the text and the focal point work together to communicate a strong message about your brand, and that's the purpose. That's the purpose of an illustration. Remember, illustration is built upon storytelling, expression, and communication. That's a big part of what you do when you create your drawing. So the last thing, guys, is once you have your focal point set, your brand name, aka the title set, and also your tagline, let's bring this thing all together. So we're going to finish this off by flattening the image because, again, you did build this on separate layers. So we have a layer for our image and also layers for our text. So what I'll do is if you go all the way to image, so this tab here, that is third from the left, and then layer, we're going to flatten this thing. So we're going to make this into one piece because now we're set. And then we will resize this. Remember, your size should be 12 by 12. That's the size of your workspace. So let's just take a look at the image. So find the image tab, go down to image size. So we'll scan down until you find this. If you can see this highlighted, and then please make sure that your image size is 12 by 12. So right now we're a little bit large. So I'm going to highlight this and adjust the size. So 12. If it's not adjusting correctly, we have this little icon here. Just take that off. And then now we're directly at 12 by 12. And then for you guys, for the resolution, the higher the resolution, the more clear your image will be. These are fairly small, but let's just go. We're going to go with 300 for your resolution size, just to make sure our image is clear. Once you're set with the size of it and the resolution of it, we'll click OK. Bam, there we go. So we have our clean text. We have our tagline and our clear focal point in order to bring this thing together. Just save this as, so again, it should already be your name, but also the product illustration title. So we'll save that as that in your OneDrive. So I'm just going to save this thing as Mr. Creighton and brand illustration. OneDrive. There we go. So JPEG options will pop up too as well. We want high resolution with this. So anything between 8 or 10 works fine for you. So I'm going to scan this down a little bit. 10 max. Okay, we're good to go. And that is your brand and product illustration. So again, we still want the same objectives in order to create a balanced illustration that has room for text and image, and then to create an image that represents the brand or image clearly and effectively through the use of digital text and color. That's it.